Hey, Kilted Warrior here. Hope you're having a merry festive season. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoy the content and stick around to the end if you want to find out what the next little video will be. Otherwise, let's begin. The Elder Scrolls. Fragments of Creation. They have foretold the future, the coming of heroes who define the ages. They foresee calamity, millennia in the making. They have a story to tell of the multitude of actions of gods and mortals alike. To understand Tamriel, Mundas, we need to journey through the ages and tell the story of the Elder Scrolls. The Last Dragonborn, Dovahkiin, Kyne, Ysmir, Alduin's Bane. The legendary hero has accrued many accolades and titles during their adventures in Skyrim and beyond. Today we shall recount the tale of the Last Dragonborn, the last of the doomed-driven individuals of the Dragon's Blood, last seen when Martin Septin banished Mehrunes Dagon 2 centuries ago, and follow the deeds of this legendary figure that was foretold by the Elder Scrolls long ago, as every great event is preceded by a prophecy, but without a hero there is no event. The Prophecy of the Last Dragonborn. When misrule takes its place at the 8 corners of the world, when the brass tower walks and time is reshaped, when the thrice
blessed fail and the red tower trembles, when the dragonborn ruler loses his throne and the white tower falls, when the snow tower lies sundered, kingless, bleeding, the World Eater wakes, and the wheel turns upon the last Dragonborn.
Some believe that Dragonborn are sent into the world by the gods at times of great need. In your case, Dragonborn, it is a privilege to guide you towards mastery of your voice.
The Tales of the Last. The Dragon of the North. On an early Sundas morning, 17th of last seed in the year 201 of the 4th era, an unknown traveller was taken by Imperial forces to be executed alongside the rebel leader of the Stormcloak Rebellion when crossing the Geralt Mountains into Skyrim. Little did anyone know that they had just met the individual who would play a pivotal role in Skyrim and Nirn's history, as the same morning at approximately 9:30, the execution of that individual would be halted by none other than Alduin the World Eater, who seemingly entered the world again prior, as the fates of both the World Eater and this individual were linked. For that day, the Last Dragonborn's legend began, and little did Alduin know that his bane would come to haunt him. No one knew then, not even the Dragonborn. But not long after, they felled the dragon Myrmilnir, and would absorb its power in full view of a group of the Jarl of Whiterun's warriors, and following that, the secretive Greybeards, for the first time since Tiber Septim, would summon the Dragonborn to Kyne's sacred mountain, the snow tower itself, High Hrothgar. With the guidance of the Greybeards, the assistance of the remnants of the Blades, and the blessing of Akatosh, Kyne and Shor, Ysmir, the Dragon of the North, was born, and would challenge Alduin both upon the throat of the world and then within Sovngarde itself, slaying the dark aspect of Akatosh and therefore finishing what the first tongue started and then the ancient blades continued. before ending the prophecy of Alduin with a new tale of tongues, and the mortal realm was spared Alduin's malevolent task.
Among the night's children, a dread lord will rise. In an age of strife, when dragons return to the realm of men, darkness will mingle with light, and the night and the day will be as one.
The Tyranny of the Sun. On many occasions, the belief that the Elder Scrolls could predict the future, and also how they relate to time itself, has led many astray, just as the first tongues were concerned with a desperate present under the tyranny of Alduin and his dragons, while the vampire lord Harkon of the Volkihar, he was focused on the future, and therefore ignored the present, his family, and the one who might end his reign. Hence, at the same time of the coming of the Dragonborn, the civil war in Skyrim and the throne being empty, the vampires became ever more bold, destroying the Hall of the Vigilance. And so with the coming of the Dragonborn, prophecy had its hero, and the events of the Tyranny of the Sun prophecy were enacted. It is unclear whether the Dragonborn overthrew Harkon from within his own court, or assisted the Dawnguard vampire hunters. Either way, putting the pieces of the prophecy together, assisted by their friend and companion Serana, the daughter of Harkon and a daughter of Cold Harbour, they travelled into the depths of the Soul Cairn, into the bowels of the Dwemer's Black Reach, the long-forgotten Vale, meeting the last of the true Falmer, the Snow Elves, and retrieving Auriel's bow, Akatosh's bow. And with it, Harkon was destroyed, and the Dragonborn was left with the power to wound the sun itself at any time, for the prophecy was never about Harkon, but another tale of the Dragonborn. Yet with two prophecies fulfilled, with Alduin humbled and Lord Harkon vanquished, the tale of the last Dragonborn still had one last chapter.
Refer to the tomes of esoteric knowledge that old Hermaeus Mora has scattered throughout the world? Dangerous knowledge is still knowledge and therefore useful. Usually turns out to be the most useful, in my experience. Mirak, the one all the town folk are always chanting about?
The first and the last. The island of Solstheim has a long history, and when the last Dragonborn made landfall in the pursuit of the cult committed to Mirak, it was not the first time a hero of legend set foot on its shores, for 2 centuries prior, the Durnehviir came and ended up involved in the Blood Moon prophecy and the machinations of the Daedric prince Hermaeus. Now like then, another Daedric prince had its tendrils around the island, seeking a new champion, but this time it pitted the first Dragonborn against the last, as a test of the most powerful Fum Master and the mightiest of the Dova. The pursuit would bring the last into contact with the secretive Skal, like the Durnehviir once had. Yet another acquaintance of the legendary individual, Master Neloth, House Telvanni, also would meet the Dragonborn just as they had once met the Durnehviir. And once again it seemed fate had intervened, and this legendary member of that great house found himself caught up in a test of titans, though for him it was just another curious experiment. With the knowledge of the Skal, the Telvanni, and the unlikely assistance of the Daedric prince Hermaeus Mora, the last Dragonborn would face the first, Mirak, at the summit of Apocrypha, Mora's realm, and would be victorious. Yet the question became, what of the cost? At what cost had the Dovahkiin gained the secrets of the Foom? Did the prince corrupt the Dragonborn? None know, for after the last great trial of the Dovahkiin, little is known of where they went, as like Durnehviir before them, Solstheim would be their last great adventure, and their destiny would seemingly take them away from Tamriel. To what end, none can say. Patrons of the Last Dragonborn. Over the course of their journeys, the Dovahkiin served many groups, assisted many people, and most importantly, several gods. Among the many gods that sought the Last Dragonborn as their champion, a few stand out for both their influence on the path that the Dragonborn took, but also their gifts that they granted to them. By understanding these patrons, we can then understand why the Dragonborn is viewed as they are, and their legacy in Tamriel.
We spoke the traditional words of greeting to a Dragonborn who has accepted our guidance. The same words were used to greet the young Talos when he came to High Hrothgar, before he became the Emperor Tiber Septim. Long has the storm crown languished, with no worthy brow to sit upon. By our breath we bestow it now to you, in the name of Kyne, in the name of Shore, and in the name of Atmora of old. You are Ysmir now, the dragon of the north. Hearken to it.
Akatosh, Fire and Blood. The first apparent gift bequeathed was the dragon blood, but more importantly, the soul of a dragon, or perhaps more accurately, a piece of Akatosh's essence. Hence, the dragon god played a pivotal role in the rise of the Dragonborn, and is responsible for their most common title, Dragonborn, which is the most common term that the Aedric worshippers of the world would use to describe this hero. Yet it was for a purpose, as Akatosh only grants this most sacred boon to those marked by destiny, or rather is the mark of destiny and the demands of a role to be played. If Zurin Arctis was right about events and prophecy requiring a hero, then Akatosh made sure that Alduin's prophecy was matched with a hero that would be his doom. Yet, though Akatosh is important to the Lords of Skyrim, this land and its people belong to another of the Aedra, who would also assist in the forging of the Last Dragonborn and guide them on their destiny.
Kynareth has placed the voice of wisdom within you, Dragonborn. All you need do is learn to listen to it, and your path will be clear.
Kyne, the mentor of heroes. Skyrim, also referred to as the Snow Tower with High Hrothgar dominating the land, and home to the Sky Children, also known as the Nords, they venerate Kyne as the leader of their pantheon, as the mother of humanity, and the patron of all warriors and heroes. With a Dragonborn in Skyrim, her disciples among the Greybeards would naturally seek to guide the one of the Dragonblood to their destiny, as they had done before. With their assistance and the teachings of Kyne, they would name the last Dragonborn Ysmir, a title only they could give, symbolizing the alliance of Kyne, Akatosh, and Shore, a champion of all mortal kind and of the gods. Yet her influence upon these events and her subtle guidance would continue through another of her champions, Paarthurnax, as he would guide the Dovahkiin to understand the way of the voice, and what it was to be of the blood of dragons, and in time lead them to the knowledge required to become the Lord of Dragons, as their Foom was the strongest. As with Alduin, what better place to end him than a place like Sovngarde, filled with many champions of Kyne and Shore, as the warrior goddess watched her newest champion defend her mortal children once more, just as Wulfharth and Morrwind did in ages past. For the Dragonborn was her breath upon the world in the Fourth Era.
I have found a new Dragonborn to serve me. Mira harbored fantasies of rebellion against me. Serve me faithfully, and you will continue to be richly rewarded.
Hermaeus Mora, pawn of the great game. Hermaeus Mora, also called the Woodland Man by the ancient Atmorans, has long been a warning to the heroes of Nirn. If Kyne is the mentor to the Dovahkiin that taught them to harness their voice through balance and purpose, then Mora sought to manipulate them and teach them the darkest secrets of the voice, of the dragon blood. Mora would leave the Dragonborn no choice but to bargain with him to get the knowledge Mora had once given to Miraak, as just as there was a Last Dragonborn, he was the first and sought dominion over Solstheim and then the world with his voice. Hermaeus Mora would have the Dragonborn complete his scheme by having the Skal relinquish their secrets after a millennia of resistance to him, and yet it proved just how fickle and petty Mora could be, as the knowledge may have been worthless, and he traded the power of the Thu'um to control life to the Dragonborn for it, and at the cost of his previous champion Miraak, who he punished fatally. Yet he knew he could claim influence over the Dragonborn, willing or otherwise, as not once, not twice, but thrice he was able to get the Dragonborn to do his whim, with the freeing of the Ogma and Finium and the destruction of another champion, and the Skal and their secrets, and then the destruction and defeat of Miraak. Mora had the Dragonborn carry out his will every time, proving for all his pettiness and for all the power of the Last Dragonborn, they were still a pawn of destiny, the doomed driven of the Dragonblood, stuck in the great game of gods, and Mora, he knew how to play the game well. Curious Acquaintances of Ysmir. The Dovahkiin has met many curious individuals in their travels, some without consequence, some era-defining, some legends, some not. What matters is all were changed by their interactions with the Last Dragonborn, just as they were changed by their encounters with them. Paarthurnax, champion of Kyne, leader of the Greybeards, mentor of the last, master of the way of the voice. Master Neloth of the House Telvanni.
Yes, you're Dragonborn. We're all very impressed.
The man makes a dreadful cup of Canis root tea.
So, you are smart enough to surrender to a master wizard of the House Telvanni.
I should kill you anyway, but that would be boring.
Serana Volkihar, vampire lord of the Volkihar, daughter of Cold Harbour, trusted friend of the Dragonborn. Durnehviir, the one cursed with undeath, warden of the Soul Cairn, Grazemazin of the Dovahkiin. Paladin Gelabor, Knight Paladin of Oriel, the last of the Snow Elves and guardian of the bow. And so the wheel turns again. So ends the tale of the last Dragonborn, strongest of their kind, with only the Divines knowing what doom they would seek, as there can be no other end for the doom-driven of the dragon blood. As like Akatosh they already knew the hour, but not the end. Next time, we will continue the legacy of heroes by retelling the origins, achievements, and the tales of the 500 companions of Ysmir, as the honoured halls of Jorrvaskr rise and in decline for the arrival of the bespoke Last Dragonborn. I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to subscribe if you did, or leave a comment as to what lore you would like to see covered in the future, and click the alarm bell if you want to be notified of the next release. Otherwise, stay safe and have a Merry Christmas.